Welcome back to My Only Scams. Today we're going to take a look at another doctored up third-party auction vehicle. Now if you don't know what a third-party auction vehicle is, it's one that was previously run through the auction, usually by an insurance company, and then the buyer decided to rerun it back through the auction. Now that's really not a problem, except for in the case of this seller, when they decided to doctor it up a little bit. Make it look like the accident wasn't really as bad as it is to try to hide some of the damage, hopefully to get a little bit more money than they paid for the car. So let's take a look at our car so you know what to watch out for so you don't get burned by sellers like this.
So today's vehicle is a 2020 Porsche Cayenne coupe with 4 doors. Somebody did something wrong, but okay. It's offered by our favorite sellers down in Miami, Florida. How do we know? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. There's no seller down here, so we know it's a third-party auction vehicle. It is a clear title car, although it does say previous insurance claim on the title document. I'm not sure exactly what that entails. It's listed as stationary. We don't have a key, and there's no miles. So it's kind of a mystery vehicle, and they seem to want $26,500 for it. Could bid $1,800. They got a ways to go. So let's take a look at it and see if it really is from our favorite sellers. Well, there it is. There's the signature, the drywall screws. So definitely from our favorite sellers. They screwed the headlight in here, either that or that's holding the fender on, or maybe a little bit of both. Our bumper is also held on with a couple drywall screws. Got some damage on the wheel. So it looks like it was hit right on this right front corner. Maybe an airbag deployed, or somebody wasn't wearing their seatbelt because we have a busted windshield. Our windows are down, probably because we don't have a key, so they can't put them back up. We have a bunch of drywall screws. I think they used the whole box on this thing. We have no headlight. Maybe they had it in there one time because I see a screw hole up here. I see a zip tie hanging out in there. They went all out on this one. Windows are down over here. Our spoiler is up, so it was moving when I crashed it. Yes, we have a few airbags that deployed, or a couple. Steering wheel airbag on the driver's side. So this is a new feature that our sellers are offering. I believe they hired a new upholsterer. So now what they're doing is taking a piece of, I don't know what this is, maybe metal, plastic, covering it with some fabric, and then just gluing it onto the top of the dash to cover up the hole that was made by the airbag when it deployed. Yeah, seems like a lot of work to try to hide that for all the people that say they're not trying to hide anything. So we definitely have some serious damage over here. Looks like we have damage on the wheel, so the wheel probably went back a little bit, and this frame rail isn't looking too good from here. Really need to take a better look at it to see what's underneath. We have no miles, no dash emojis because we have no key. But I'd be willing to bet if we had a key, we'd have plenty of dash emojis, and we'd know what the miles are. Back seat looks okay. There's our VIN. Okay, what do we got under here? Oh, we have the entire box of drywall screws. And when attaching drywall screws to hold the front bumper on, they always recommend screwing right through the radiator. That is a classic move there. We got a custom prop rod. We got drywall screws holding on this piece, which is screwed into the radiator. Looks like we even have some drywall screws back here holding this radiator support rail in there, the upper rail. So we definitely have some damage hiding down here. Oh, we have multiple zip ties. It looks like this rail is shoved back pretty good. Let's see if we got an inside picture. So we have no rear view mirror. That's definitely from the airbag deploying. That's all we can really tell. I don't see any headliner damage. So maybe the curtains did not deploy. Don't see anything on the seats. So it's probably just all the front airbags. And this is just a bunch of pictures that they've already taken of all the corners. So we've already seen this. So what do you think it looked like before? Well, there is no telling because it has never gone through the auction. They didn't buy it from the auction, they bought it from somebody else. Chances are they bought it straight from the insurance company because this is a higher dollar vehicle. It was probably corporate insured, and you can buy, sometimes they won't send them to the auction, they will just sell them off or auction them off. And that's probably where they bought this thing. They've run it a couple times. They did get their 26.5. So if they didn't take it and they only wanted 26.5 and they got over that, I'm thinking they were bidding on their own vehicle. And they got pretty close here. Can't believe they wouldn't take it. So I would say that those are probably their own bids. So this is one you definitely want to look at in person. So let's do that. Enhance. Enhance. Wow, these new enhancement features on auction sites are wild. So we can get a better look underneath. We definitely have some broken aluminum stuff down there. And we saw all of our drywall screws. It's not looking good. We'll go under that in a second. They did tape up the windows, so at least we have no water inside. The rest of the vehicle actually looks pretty good. So it is a fantastic parts vehicle, although they want a little bit too much money for it. They did tape the doors shut, so you can kind of peek inside. We already saw what we needed to see. Pretty clean in there. Car's actually in decent shape. And yep, it is in fact our favorite sellers. They did ruin a perfectly good fender, running those screws in to hold the headlight that's not there anymore. They indeed did use the entire box of drywall screws. And there's our custom prop rod, so hang on a second. I'll put it to work. They went all out. Those are custom aluminum panels screwed into the radiator support that are also screwed into the radiator. And there's the reason we don't want to buy this thing. That frame rail, they stretched it out a little bit, straightened it out. Put a couple drywall screws in this upper rail here, but in order to change that lower rail, the engine's got to come out, dash has got to come out, that rail's got to be replaced all the way to the firewall. Got some wiring damage down here. If we have to buy a wiring harness, that's not going to be cheap. Since our belt's off, I'm thinking something might have hit the front of the engine. So there is a question of whether or not our engine is any good. There's no back to that frame rail there. They just kind of stretched it out enough to make it look good. Can't believe they couldn't find an eBay headlight to throw on here. See anything in there that scares me? So if you knew what you were getting into, this wouldn't be a bad deal. Looks like maybe somebody just cut that plug off of there. Our old mounts for our headlight are there, so whatever it hit it pretty good because the headlight literally came flying out of there. Got our custom zip ties. More drywall screws. And it looks like they might have hammered out the hood a little bit. Make that dent look a little bit better. Body-wise, needs a fender, headlight, bumper, hood. But for the inner structure, we need a lot more work. Definitely took a good hit on that wheel, so that suspension is done. Got another plug cut off there, so probably an entire front wiring harness, which is not cheap. Well, the belt's only off that idler pulley, so maybe that's all it's broken, but I'm not willing to take that gamble, are you?
I've had a lot of comments asking, do people actually buy these things? Do they sell? Well, I have a little closure on this, so let's take a look at what happened to this vehicle.
A lot of you ask how I find these vehicles and all this information. Well, I just take the VIN number, plug it into the Google machine, and here we go. If you want to get a little more detailed, there's other ways to do that. But for the most part, I'm not looking to buy these cars. I'm already scared off. So this is all I need to, well, make sure that my fears are warranted. So let's see what happened to it. So we clicked on this one, and I'm cheap. I'm not willing to pay. We can see that it did run 7 times, and it finally sold here. We've seen these other ones. These are not sold, not sold, not sold. This is sold. So they finally did sell it. And because I'm not willing to pay, we'll have to do a little bit of work to find out when they sold it. So we'll click on the next one here. Give it a second. Yes, I'm a person. And we can see they finally sold it on 7/18 of 24, and they got $22.25 for the thing. So they didn't get their buy it now price. They must have just wanted to get out of it and had to pay off their floor plan that they had on the thing. So somebody did buy it with auction fees. You're probably looking at close to $24,000 with transport fees, depending on where they're going. And while we're here, a lot of people always ask, who are our favorite sellers? And, well, I can't say because, well, then they would have something to argue with me about, and send me a cease and desist letter. I'm thinking that maybe there's a little hint in this video of who our sellers might be. Wonder what this link is. And do they have other vehicles that look similar? Well, I'm taking a wild guess and saying there's some drywall screws in this car. And we can go ahead and buy it on eBay. But that's enough of that. I think we've determined that we don't want to buy from these sellers. And they have a lot of vehicles.
So they were able to find somebody that was buying this as a rebuilder. And the reason I say that is I did a little search of the parts for this thing because, well, I don't do a lot of Porsches. I had to look up and see what the parts are worth. And turns out they're not going to get their $22,000 or whatever they paid for it back. There's not that much value in the parts. Plus, you still have to pay for the labor to take them off, shipping, storage, whatever else. And that's not considering that you're probably not going to sell 100% of the parts, at least not right away. So somebody bought it as a rebuilder, and when they find out that they're going to have to put probably 15 grand into a front end on this thing, if the motor is still good, by the time you're all done with all the labor and everything else, they're going to have more than they could have just bought one that wasn't wrecked for. And we don't know how many miles are on it. So if it's high miles, the value's even lower. They're definitely upside down. If it's low miles, well, they might get their money back because it does have a clear title. But I'm not willing to take that gamble. I would say it's probably lower miles because the car was pretty clean and in pretty good shape. So it didn't have a lot of wear and tear on it. But again, I'm not willing to take that gamble and definitely don't trust these sellers. So that's this car. I can't tell you where it went. It hasn't shown back up in Google searches, but it might be because they're still rebuilding it. If they are going to put it back on the market, it's going to take them a while because there's a lot of work to do. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.